All right, so this is just sort of a rant that I felt like I wanted to do because I had this epiphany, or maybe, I don't know, I just have these, I have all these thoughts about the world, you know, and some of our problems, some of our weaknesses as a culture, just in the modern Western world today, and that applies to like America and Canada and Europe and Australia and New Zealand. All the, I mean, even probably like in Japan and Korea, they probably have too much of this too. And it's cynicism. Just this idea that you know, everything sucks, and, you know, like almost like an insincerity, or people that just being jaded, like being cynical from like a very young age, like, oh, the world's just fucked. Everything's fucked up, and just, you know, this idea that you can't, like, you don't want to do that because that's cringe. Like, oh, don't do that. That's cringe. It's like, when did we lose sincerity? You know, I saw this YouTube video, and maybe I'll link it, about this guy that was walking around London, and he looked at these lamps that were made in the Victorian era, and they were like some of the first electric lamps in the world. And like, as he was kind of saying, it was cutting edge technology at the time. But the lampposts were these, like, you know, really gaudy, super ornate, as the Victorians were, right? Very ornate lampposts with this weird fish design on them. And the thesis of his video is basically, we've lost something in our search for like simplicity and modern design. You know, like this postmodern aesthetic. It's almost like it's all linked, right? This postmodern aesthetic is linked to postmodern ideals, which are ideas, which is like, you know, just thinking about the world in these abstract ways, and kind of like seeing the worst in people, and like overanalyzing everything, and being super hypercritical of yourself and what other people say, and like not giving people the benefit of a doubt, just being very quick to just be like, oh yeah, well that figures, you know, of course everything would be that way. And you know, he said basically, if you want to know what a society values, look at what it creates. And the Victorians created these beautiful, you know, albeit maybe, you know, a bit overbearing, a bit gaudy structures and decorations for just very normal things, right? Whereas in the modern world, everything's ugly, right? You go to like any modern city in America, like suburbs, like edge of town, or like just smaller cities in America, and a lot of the places don't even have sidewalks. We don't even have sidewalks. We have all these, you know, stretches of land where it's just ugly. There's no plants or anything. You know, you have all these utility poles everywhere. In Japan, you see that a lot. It's just this very ugly sort of, it's like everything's about utility and convenience. And so I was thinking about this, and just if you expand that out a little bit, you see that like it's almost a virtue in our society to be cynical, right? There's this cynicism that's just so pervasive in everything. I mean, kids have it. And I think part of the reason that the younger people nowadays, which I would classify as anyone that was born probably after, I don't know, the mid 90s maybe, people that were born with you know, all this like crazy technological advancement, and the biggest thing is the internet, right? Kids that grew up having access to the internet, they got to be aware, like hyper aware of everything that was happening in the entire world all the time, right? So you hear about these horrible things, and, you know, the school system and the news, and, you know, these institutions, movies, media, the things that shape the way people think, right, about the world, give us context. They've you know, from when I was a little kid, I was always taught, oh, you know, the people are starving in Africa, and it's almost a meme, right? Kids are starving in Africa. Used to be kids are starving in China, and they stopped starving in China. Now it's kids are starving in Africa. And, you know, you think about the world in just these very negative ways, because it's like all we can focus on is like the negative, right? And it's almost like being cynical is seen as like a good thing, right? And there's this shift that's happening in the vibe. And I hope this ages well, this sort of shift that I'm seeing. And I hope it ages well. I hope this is the way things are going. It seems like we're in the midst of a shift. There's this shift in the way people are thinking. And it starts with the young people, as it often does. Because, you know, young people, they want to do things their way. They don't want to do things the way their parents did it. And, you know, in the same way that parents and the older generation always think the younger generation is just screwed and like, oh, they're lazy, they're entitled, blah, 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 seeing the negative in them. The younger people sort of see, and, you know, oftentimes rightfully so, that the older people are stuck in their ways, and they want to think of a new way to think about the world, that's a new way to just act in a new ethos, right? Entirely from the older generation, right? And it's like, well, if you guys have these problems, we don't want to have those problems. Let's try a different way, right? So younger people are more prone to or accept or create or adopt, I guess I should say, different ways of thinking about the world. And the shift I'm seeing, and I see it online on YouTube comments, and I see it in TikTok videos, and I see like in the comments of TikTok videos, these are the places people are, right? Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, it's these big platforms. But just looking at the individual interactions people have, right? There's this, there was this sort of like in the mid 2010s, it was like the peak of cringe culture, right? And I want to say that was maybe the peak of cynicism. And I have to admit, I was growing up in that period of time. I was born in the late 90s, so I was, a teenager in the mid 2010s. And it was like this, like, oh, like, look at this shit, this is cringe, right? Like, oh, that's cringy. That was like what everyone wanted to say. Just being so quick to make fun of someone for being themselves. And oftentimes people should be made fun of for being themselves, because the person they are kind of sucks, right? You have some weird hobby or interest or something about you that is not compatible with society. You kind of should be ostracized a little bit. I think that's kind of healthy to have norms and to have standards for people and how you should behave, right? So like if you're like, I don't know, you're into like diapers, or like you're a furry or something, it's like, that's kind of cringy, whatever. Like you see like weird cringe stuff on Reddit, like cringe paradise or whatever it was called. But like, it kind of expanded. I think it went a little too far, because there was this sort of attitude that's like, let's make fun of this person for being who he is, because it's not, it's not cool, or it's not good, and only a couple people do this, right? Oh, you wore that sweater your grandma made you. That's cringe. You said I love you to your mom on the phone at school. That's cringe. And it's like, what, do you not love your mom? Do you not love your grandma? Like, are you embarrassed about that? Right? It's like, who are you? It's like we're trying to impress everyone else with how cynical and jaded and that we are, right? And so I see this shift happening, and I see, some guy with Down syndrome, and he's singing a song on TikTok.
I'm burning you in the fire, and burn you in the fire, and burn you in the fire, dun 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 dun.
And it's like, that would have been, peak, cringe content in like 2015, right? Like, oh, this is painful to watch, this gave me cancer. But now I see comments like, just being supportive, or maybe just being a tad snarky, but like with some nuance to it, right? Like, people are starting to understand that, like, if you are truly yourself, and people have always said this, but now we're actually putting our money where our mouths are. And it's like, if you are just being true to yourself and you like something, maybe it's not popular, but you love it, and it makes you happy, even if people don't necessarily vibe with it, they're like, this is cool. Like, you're being you. There's a sort of courage to it. Like, I'm going to put myself out there. This is something that I like, and not everyone likes this, and that's fine. But the other, people at large are not so quick to be like so judgeful, so judgmental about it, right? And I don't know. I hope this continues, and I hope that we're entering a sort of postmodernist idea of just how to see the world, to be a little more sincere, right? It's like, oh, being cool was cool, then being lame was cool, now being cool is cool again, right? I know that kind of goes against what I just said, but maybe you can understand what I'm trying to say. It's like up was up, and then actually down was up, because we're being ironic. And then it's like, oh, up is totally up, but I'm being sarcastic about it, but actually up is up. And now we're wrapping right back around to like, up is up again, Like, you love your mom? Cool. Say, oh, I love you, Mom. That's cool. Who cares? If someone makes fun of you, just flip right back on it. What, do you not love your mom? Right? People are just a little more willing to be themselves and to see sincerity in the world and to take people at face value. And there's still some aspect. It's like we've tried not to be, dumb, not to be like an idiot, but just to be a little more open, right? When it comes to like, just how you behave, how you present yourself, and and not be, you know, hidden behind 15 layers of irony so you can't tell what I'm actually saying. There's still a fair amount of that, and I see this, you know, super post irony online sometimes. And it's usually people that are not very happy, and, you know, I try to be patient with them. I try to look at it from their perspective, because when I see people like that, I'm like, well, this person, you know, mentally is not doing the best, and, you know, we should be patient with this person. You shouldn't just tear him down. Maybe just ask some questions, like why are you like that, right? Like, consider different alternative points of view, and I don't know. I just see this shift towards sincerity, away from cynicism. I think cynicism is a poison in a society, because if we can't even say what we believe, if we can't even say what we like, then what's the point of anything? Why are we even doing anything at all, right? You should be able to enjoy things and not have to, like, defend it or pretend that you don't really enjoy it, or, you know, just, like, not talk about it. We should be able to enjoy things maybe that are even atypical, and just, like, you know, you do you, you know. And we should be more sincere with our designs. We should be a little more, like, if something came out, if some new tech product came out and it had, like, some artwork on the back of it, it wasn't, like, you know, super minimalist, you know, like, big tech design art, but, like, let's just say, like, an iPhone came out and it had, like, a very tasteful, like, flower design on the back of it, right? People would be like, oh my god, that's so this looks terrible, like, I think we're approaching a point in time where we can look at things that maybe are a little, you know, over the top, or someone had an idea for something that was a little crazy, a little out there, but just to appreciate it for what it is, and not just have this knee-jerk reaction of just, oh, I hate that, it's cringe, get out of my face, you know, like everyone's afraid. And I kind of hope this continues, and that it kind of affects everything, because everything's interconnected. The vibe overall, that's a word we use nowadays, the vibe used to be in the Victorian era of, you know, optimism and sincerity, and, you know, let's try to make things beautiful. Then we go into this postmodernism where we're like, let's just make it flat and boring and pretend we don't like anything at all, because we need to be, you know, coif. We need to be like, you know, upper class, and we need to be whatever. And now we're wrapping back around, and I hope this continues, and I hope it speeds up, and I hope we don't have to be traditional about everything, but if we can just, you know, pick and choose and try to embrace this vibe of sincerity and just saying what you mean straight up, and that's okay, and, you know, just being friendly, and I think we're going to be a lot better off for it. I think that might be the antidote to a lot of the issues the internet kind of causes. So this is my 2 cents on cynicism and why it's a poison. Thanks.